When you go on vacation, the last thing you want to be bothered with is wondering if you're ever going to get back home. Vacations are meant to be a relaxing escape where you can set your work and personal issues aside and just chill out. But when the vessel built to give you that relaxation turns on you, a vacation can turn into a nightmare really quick. Today, we'll discuss a well-known cruise gone wrong and dive into what happens when your amenities are taken away from you at sea. Let's talk about what happened to the Carnival Triumph disaster, also known as the poop cruise. The Carnival Triumph is an 893-foot-long cruise ship run by the Carnival Cruise Line. Built in northern Italy, the Triumph, now renamed the Sunrise, was christened and floated out first on October 23, 1999. The ship has a diesel-electric propulsion system. The main generators are responsible for all shipboard functions such as AC, propulsion motors, and electricity. So if anything were to happen to those generators, the ship would not only be stuck in the water, but lose all functions of comfort. So let's hope that never happens. With 13 decks of comfort and entertainment, the ship has a capacity of 2,984 passengers and 1,108 crew members. It can travel at a maximum speed of 22.5 knots, or 41.7 kilometers per hour, or 25.9 miles per hour. This story takes place on February 7, 2013, when the Triumph left the port of Galveston, Texas, on a 4-day journey to Cozumel, Mexico. There were about 4,200 passengers and crew on board, so it was a rather full ship. And for 3 days, everything was going as planned. It was described as a floating Las Vegas, as the ship had a great cities theme featuring a Paris dining room, Rome lounge, and Club Rio. The Carnival Cruise Line knows how to throw a party and make everything look pretty in the process. But that was all about to change. On February 10th at 10:30 a.m., the aft engine room caught fire. Diesel generator number 6 caught fire, and not for the first time either. It had caught fire over a year prior to this cruise and was overdue for maintenance to prevent another one. Crew and passengers alike rushed around to get to lifeboats in case this became a real Titanic situation, but luckily the crew managed to extinguish the fire and no one on board was harmed. Unfortunately, the fire damaged the ship's power, sewage, heating, and air conditioning units, rendering the once luxury cruise ship dead in the water with less amenities than a prison. As the ship tilted back and forth in the water, the sewage began to back up and leak up from the toilets and shower drains. The smell and water-soaked floors forced passengers to retreat to the upper decks, where they began to set up tents to protect them from the cold. Any clean mattress was dragged from the rooms to any location that wasn't soaked in sewage. Left without proper bathrooms, passengers were having to use plastic bags, making the whole ship a lot less sanitary. It didn't take long before people started to get sick. Once they realized that the ATMs had power, people unplugged them and daisy-chained power strips together so they could keep their devices charged, which looks like a fire hazard by itself. With limited power, the food situation was becoming dire, as people waited in line for hours to get their hands on a tasty onion sandwich. It was all starting to look a lot like a certain fire festival I know about. As the news got wind of the cruise ship stuck at sea, they covered the story thoroughly, terrifying friends and family of those on board. It took 3 days for a helicopter to reach the Triumph and deliver much-needed equipment. 2 tugboats arrived, but weren't enough to take the Triumph far before a tow cable snapped, and 2 more tugboats had to help tow the massive ship to not the nearest dock, but the cheaper dock in Mobile, Alabama. Carnival was blamed for the late arrival, as they couldn't be bothered to spend more money on a dock closer to the location, but hey, at least on the last day, the passengers were rewarded a surf and turf dinner complete with old sketchy lobster tails. At 9:20 p.m. on February 14th, the Triumph finally made it to shore, but several passengers had to be taken to the hospital and put on IVs. With hundreds complaining of UTIs, lung and respiratory problems, panic attacks, and diarrhea, a class action lawsuit was placed on Carnival Cruise Line. An investigation as to what caused the fire was conducted by the Bahamas Maritime Authority and U.S. Coast Guard, and the National Transportation Safety Board. They found that a flexible fuel return line on Generator 6 had sprung a leak that caused oil to reach hot surfaces. 2 weeks prior, the ship had experienced propulsion issues that slowed its speed, causing it to be 5 hours late to its destination. An inspection found that there had been a short in the high-voltage connection box on one of the generators, which damaged cables within. Upon this discovery, an order was placed to perform maintenance on the ship by February 27, 2013, but the order was never carried out. Following the disaster, the ship was stationed at Mobile for repairs on April 3, 2013, but gale force winds caused the ship to break free and crash into the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers vessel, sending 2 workers to the hospital. It just had to be a menace once more. This was a clear case of company negligence. The ship was denied maintenance when it was clearly not seaworthy. But of course, Carnival spokesman claims they did nothing wrong, stating that the fire had nothing to do with their neglect to fix the generators. Today, the ship is still in service, operating under the name Carnival Sunrise, and it seems to have retired from its menacing ways. Thanks for watching. For more true crime and horror, please consider subscribing. Game with me on Twitch, follow me on Twitter, and as always,